Episode 12, Get Hardcore on iTunes. Hey guys, so this week we're going to be having a lot of gameplay. I'm not going to have any guest stars, but I had planned to, and they couldn't make it, so there's going to be gameplay of Batman, Infinity Blade 2, Grand Theft Auto. I'm also going to show some Relics key bosses, like I promised. I'm going to be having some news on other games. I'm going to have a special review that was requested by one of the fans of the show. But before all that, I'm going to be talking about the Monk Spec, so I hope you guys enjoy. So in the past few weeks, you may have noticed me doing the different segments with different classes. I've already done Assassin and part of the Warrior Spec, but I'm actually going to be having a follow-up episode on the Warrior Spec with a real warrior, because some people complained that those two people didn't really know what they were talking about. So I'm going to have a tank come on in a future episode. Today, I'm going to be talking about my Divine Spec, and I was actually going to have a mage come on this episode, but he couldn't make it. If he doesn't come on in a few weeks for the mage spec, which I'm rescheduling, then I'll need another mage to volunteer to talk about spec, gear, etc. So for today, I'm going to be doing Divine Spec, but if you're interested in being a mage, just let me know. So first, I'm going to talk about the different skills I got. I respect 2 times, I think, and I've been Divine the whole time, even when I was leveling up. And I think that Divine wasn't that hard for me when I was leveling up, because you can heal yourself more. Some people say that it's better to be military, but it worked pretty fine for me. It only took me like 2 weeks to level up to 60 as a Divine Monk. You start off with Rapid Healing, so I recommend putting 3 points into Improved Rapid Healing. I put 5 points into a spell called Temperance, and it decreases the cost of all your spells by 10%, and that's helpful because you don't really want to use too much mana on your spells. Also, when I was leveling up, I didn't use Restore. When I was level 60 and I started dueling, I realized how helpful Restore is. It gives you back 25 HP every 3 seconds to yourself or to a target, so that's really helpful in dungeons. You may have seen me using that a lot before. Also, Charity, I recommend putting 5 points into that, and it increases your healing effect by 20%. Also gets the 5 out of 5 for Vitality Stream, which increases the effective time of Restore by 30 seconds, which is helpful. Resurrect, that only costs 1 point, and it's very helpful. Especially in dungeons, we need to res the tank or any of the other classes that die, so I recommend getting that. Devotional Grace, I put 5 points into that, and that increases your total wisdom by 10%. And wisdom actually increases your mana, so you'll be able to heal more and use more spells. I used Selfless Muse, which costs 5 points, and that increases your mana regeneration by 10%, which is really helpful. When you're leveling up, you should put points into Fire of Faith, but when you're at level 60, you should respect from that, because I put the points that I originally used in Fire of Faith into Mantis Cudgel, which is a military monk move, and that's a lot more helpful because it stuns, and it does pretty good crits. So I also put 5 points into Suffering, which increases your rapid healing, and Divine Light by 25%. Divine Light, it's not really that helpful. You don't really have to use it that much because it's a really time-consuming spell, and it doesn't even heal that much. It just takes too long to heal, so it's not necessary to use, but when you're leveling up, it's definitely necessary for yourself. But when you're in dungeons or in PvP, it's not going to be helpful at all. Ring of Healing is a must, and also the Beneficent Virtue, which reduces the cost of Ring of Healing by 15%. Ring of Healing you'll need in dungeons mostly, but you also need it in PvP wars or duels. One of the most important ones is Divine Breath, and that only costs 1 point, and mages will always be asking for this, and as a monk, you'll be using this a lot too. So if you don't get Divine Breath, you're gonna have to respec, because that's the most important thing you can get probably. And finally, if you get enough points in all of these, you can use Prayer of Pure Faith, and that only costs 1 point, but it basically heals everyone, and everyone takes 50% less damage from attacks from bosses. So that's extremely helpful when you're about to die, or when you're fighting different bosses. It's helpful in certain situations. And in PvP wars, if your whole team's about to die, you can pop Prayer, which we say in this game, and you guys will most likely live. And also when you get the 6 sets, the 6 epic rune sets for Divine Monk, you will get 20 seconds less for the cooldown for Prayer of Pure Faith, which is really helpful because you can use it more. So that's all the divine points I used. In the military monk spec, I put points into Blessing of Battle and Improve Bless, and that's really helpful to add more wisdom and armor to you and your teammates, so I recommend that. Also, Body Chasten, which requires 3 points, and it increases your maximum health by 5%. And finally, Mantis Cudgel and Staff Master, which will increase the effectiveness of Mantis Cudgel, increase the critical chance each time. I only put 2 points into that because I didn't have a lot of points left, but if you have points for that, I recommend that. So those are the points that I put into the Divine spec and the military monk spec for my Divine Monk, mainly Divine Monk. I hope you guys take note of this if you're just turning level 60, or if you want to respec. And in the coming weeks, I will be having more guest stars talk to me about their specs, like mages, tanks, and even a military monk. Today, I'm going to be showing another Ordering Chaos boss fight, and this one is going to be centered around Relic's Key. If you have already faced all the bosses in Relic's Key, or you're familiar with the strategy, then you should skip this segment because it's not anything new, and it's from a monk's perspective as always, but I'm going to be talking a little bit about what the other classes should be doing as best I can. So I hope you guys enjoy the following segment. You get to the first boss. He does an AoE attack, so if you're a monk, you have to use Ring of Healing every time he uses this attack called Tempest, and you can use Prayer of Pure Faith as well. He also duplicates himself, so you have to face the 2 different other versions of him. Basically, the tank just has to keep aggro on the main one and try to bring him down, and your other 2 DPSs have to focus on the 2 different bosses when he uses his cloning spell. They're not that hard, they take a few seconds to take down if you have a good DPS, so you have to take those down first while the tank worries about the main one, and the monk has to heal you all when he does the AoE spells. So he's not a hard boss at all, and when you get him down, he drops just standard gear. The second boss is named Kermode. He doesn't have AoE spells, so he'll mainly be attacking the tank. Basically, all of your DPSs have to try to make sure that the tank keeps aggro, and the tank has to make sure that he keeps aggro as well. So basically, the DPSs have to use standard attacks on Kermode, the tank has to keep aggro, and the monk has to make sure the tank doesn't die. This boss drops Kermode's tier, and sometimes a really epic pet. He's not a hard boss at all, if you guys know what you're doing. And the final boss, which drops all the best gear for Relic's Key, including epics, essences, and souls, is Allure Rajil. His name's kind of hard to say, as you can hear. And basically, you just have to stay out of his black circles that he does. Those black circles are AoE, and they bring down your health about 1/3 depending on your class. For a monk, it brings down my health about 1/3, and mages and rangers it does the same. And if you're a tank, you should probably stay out of it as well, so the monk doesn't have too hard of a job healing you. Aggro does matter on this boss as well, and he does a lot of AoE spells, so the monk has to use Prayer, Pure Faith, and Ring of Healing. But if you're using Prayer, Pure Faith, I recommend only using it at the beginning, unless you have the 6-set bonus, which reduces the time for Prayer, Pure Faith cooldown. Because at the end of the battle, he starts to fly up, and he will kill everyone on the team unless you have Prayer, Pure Faith. So you have to make sure everyone is in range on your team, and then you pop Prayer, as we say in this game, and you wait a few seconds, and about half of everyone's health goes down, but the Prayer, if it's still active, will restore that health. And from there, you just have to finish him off. The tank should have secured aggro by them. The monk just has to heal your team, and you should be good. So that's all the RK bosses for today. I'm going to be showing some otherworldly bosses in this segment in the future. So this is going to be the final segment for the Batman Arkham City lockdown segments. I got to the final boss here, and it's on the Gotham rooftops. This is, of course, the hardest level, but I upgraded some of my armor and some of the abilities that you can get for your character. So you have to face these regular enemies again. They aren't too hard. You basically just have to dodge and try to block their attacks like normal. And there's 3 of them, but the second one has a special attack where he uses 3 of the really hard-hitting ones. So you have to make sure that you're paying attention and you dodge all 3. And if you can notice by the masks, and if you saw the first part there, you're going to face the Joker here. So after you finish off the 3rd guy, you chase down the Joker. Basically what you have to do is try to dodge his attacks. He does 3 main attacks. His first one is putting like this green stuff all over your screen, and you have to move your finger all over the screen to try to get rid of it, and he attacks you during this time, so you lose some health and you need to use the health boost after that. Also, another move he does is he tries to shoot you, so you basically just have to dodge that like normally. And the third attack he does is he tries to punch you with a really hard hit, so you just have to try to dodge that. So it takes a while, but eventually if you dodge his attacks and you block his attacks and do the different power-ups like the electrical gloves and stuff, you get him down to low health and you can finish him off. So it's not too complicated. So that's the final boss, and I just finished him off. Unfortunately, there's no more bosses or areas after this, but as you can see, it starts over like Infinity Blade, and it says you can play through it again with harder bosses and more abilities. So if you're interested in doing it all over again and facing harder bosses and getting new stuff, then you can do that. But I think I'm just gonna leave this game alone for now until there's a new update or something. So for now, that's all the Batman Arkham City Lockdown gameplay I have, and if there is an update for this, I'll show more gameplay of it and the new bosses that it brings. So hope you guys enjoyed all my Batman segments. So today I did a pretty quick Grand Theft Auto mission. I actually wasn't able to finish it because it's a hard one, but you get the mission from a telephone and you have to try to find a fast car. I actually found several different cars because I failed this mission a lot, and you have to drive the car to the starting area. So the cars will try to attack you and you'll have to try to dodge them, but you basically just get through all the different blue checkpoints until you get to the finishing line. And as I said, I failed on this mission, so I'm not really sure where the finishing line is, if there even is one. So this was a pretty interesting mission. I just wanted to show you guys a little more Grand Theft Auto gameplay, even if I couldn't finish it. Last week, I showed the second Infinity Blade boss, and today I'm going to be showing a normal boss, and then a pretty challenging boss. So right here, you have to face a regular enemy right before you get to this big monster. The enemy is kind of hard, and when I get to the bigger boss, what you basically have to do is try to see how high he throws down his hands, and if his hands are at medium level right before he strikes you, then you should dodge the opposite way, and if his hands are high up, that means he'll swipe right past you. You should dodge right where his hand starts. So that's what I do throughout the battle. And he took a few minutes to beat, but you basically just have to dodge him. You can't really parry on him because he doesn't have a sword. So you just have to try to dodge all his attacks, and one of them he tries to actually eat you. So after you beat this big boss, then you take the path and you get into this room. You have to face this regular enemy again, and he's near the chest that requires the large key, and he's a really easy boss. I beat him in about a minute. And then you get to this little soldier, and he starts complaining, and then the big monster who you're actually facing jumps down on him and crushes him, and we have to face this guy. Now, he's really fast and his attacks hit hard, but it's easy to get his health down though, in my opinion. And I perfected all of his moves, so I know when to dodge. Basically just have to go left and right and then press the middle dodge button when you can. Eventually, I got him down to critical health and I finished him off. Next week, I'll be showing an alternate path after you beat this third boss, and then I'll be showing what lies beyond that. I'm going to be reviewing a new game today, thanks to a very generous donation. This is from Sandova in my guild, and if you know him on the forum, his name is Evolution, and he gifted me the app Mega Man X and asked me to review it. So thank you, Evolution, and I'll be reviewing that now. This game costs $4.99 in the App Store, and it's primarily an iPhone game. If you're watching the YouTube version of this, then you can see that I had to zoom it in because they don't have an iPad version of this yet. And that's kind of a letdown, but it's not really that big a deal. You can just kind of see more pixels. But I really hope that they update it, or at least add a new version of it in the future. So the gameplay is a lot like Super Mario Brothers and a lot of endless running games. You have to jump and try to survive these enemies the whole time. It's not too complex of an idea. I thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. You can see me running through the different stages, and at the end of each stage there's a boss. And that may be the hardest aspect of the game. The main problem that a lot of people have complained about is that the controls are kind of bad. When you use the up and down and left and right arrows, it's kind of hard to control. When Mega Man was originally played on the computer, the controls were probably a lot easier. So I think a lot of people were more used to that, and they don't really like this new system. I think jumping isn't that hard, but mainly moving left and right is the main problem here. If this was on an iPhone, the graphics would be really good. I mean, I can imagine how they look when I zoom back in to the smaller version, so that's not a major concern for me. The main problem that I have in this game is losing health, because the enemies do pretty hard damage on you, so you have to try to shoot them as fast as you can without dying. That's my main problem, and also the boss fights are really hard. I can't seem to beat any of the bosses no matter what I do. I always lose health really fast. It'll take more perfection to do that, so I'll have to work on that. So that's just a little review of Mega Man X. I encourage that you guys buy this game. It's only $4.99. Only get it if you have an iPhone for now, and if you're willing to sacrifice some of the gameplay for the subpar controls. It's a really fun game, and I think it's worth the $5 because there's a lot of gameplay. So thank you, Evolution, for gifting me this app, and I hope you guys enjoy this game, and I may even show it in future episodes. Instead of Modern Combat 3 gameplay today, I'm actually going to be just talking about the hacking that's been going on, and if you're watching the YouTube version, you'll see screenshots of the game. So basically what's been happening is people have been hacking the game using jailbroken devices, and they're able to speed through the map. They can get special abilities, they can shoot more weapons, and there's even an invisible hack. You can't see this in the screenshots, but I think in a lot of the matches there are people who are using this hack. Because of this, people's kill death ratios are going down because they're getting killed so much by these hackers. And this problem has been addressed before. When the game first came out, Gameloft released an update for the game, but since then they haven't done anything because there's been new hacks and it's only gotten worse. I mean, it's another Gameloft game. They're in the same situation as Order and Chaos, it's just with hacking. Ours is with accounts being stolen, and Gameloft has still not released an update for them. So that's relevant to Order and Chaos because Gameloft hasn't released an update to stop the account stealing that's happening in Order and Chaos. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that was what's happening in Modern Combat 3 right now. But I will be showing more gameplay of this in the future. Another Gameloft news story that came out this week was about an Unreal Engine game that they're supposedly releasing in Q1 of 2012. So that'll be in the next 3 months. They haven't given any info on it besides the fact that they're working on it and it's going to be Unreal Engine, which means it's going to have good graphics and stuff. And there's speculation that this game is going to be Nova 3, which I've been highly anticipating. If it is, that means that we'll be getting Nova in the next 1 or 2 months or so. So that's really good news, and I hope that it's not in the same situation that Modern Combat is in and Order and Chaos with hacking. So I guess we'll just have to see what the Unreal Engine game is, and if it's Nova, I will be showing that on the show. This game I haven't talked about at all. It's called Galaxy on Fire 2. It's basically an open world space adventure game, and there's different missions that you have to do and such, and you drive a ship. There's a mining aspect to it as well. It's a really fun game. This is a new announcement. There's actually going to be an expansion, and they're calling it Supernova, and it's supposed to add many more hours of gameplay with a bunch of new missions and new ships and everything. So when this comes out, I'll be showing what the update is all about, and I'll show you guys what Galaxy on Fire 2 is about. So I'm really excited for this update. So you may have noticed the name of this episode, and it has to do with iTunes. And the reason is that this show finally got onto iTunes. I figured out how to get the RSS feed code from Podomatic. So all I did was enter the RSS code into the iTunes store, and Apple approved it in a few hours. All the episodes will now appear on iTunes as well. You don't have to listen to the Podomatic version anymore because all the MP3s will be on iTunes, and you can just subscribe each week to see new episodes. So if you like the traditional gameplay, you can still watch the YouTube videos. Nothing's going to change there. But I encourage that you subscribe to the iTunes, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that. That's the episode for today. I was hoping to have episode 13 up this weekend, but there was actually a few setbacks, one of which is the World of Midgard Beta 3 being pushed back until next Thursday. I'm going to be having an interview with someone for episode 13 about Beta 3, so I really can't do that before it comes out. So you guys are just going to have to wait until next week for that interview. And also I'm going to be having a segment next week about the Shadow Prince with a special guest star, and we're just going to be talking about Shadow Prince, how it's like the PvP arenas, and more stuff like that.